Guest today is Christian Ortiz, a visionary entrepreneur, filmmaker, and technologist who's making waves at the intersection of technology, media, and social justice. We just recorded a 1 hour session around decolonization and DEI and how they intersect, and it was fascinating, except I forgot to push record. And if you want to find him on TikTok or on Insta or on LinkedIn at The Real Christian Ortiz, I can tell you that I have sampled this Justice AI, which is a chat GPT version of serious conversational learning about what we're steeped in our language and our thought process and our media and the way that Chat GPT spits it out that keeps biases alive and it turns it on a dime. He said, you will be impressed, and I was 100% impressed. In fact, I'm going to use it to revamp some of the information that I give in my corporate trainings. I hope you enjoy the conversation for the podcast that we just recorded. Round two. I have no idea if this information is going to be the same as the first one, but I know for sure it will be compelling. Mr. Ortiz.
Miss Bradford.
So we recorded yesterday, and for the first time in my recording history, I did not push record. Where would you like to begin? We covered so much yesterday, they'll never see.
I know, but it's a pleasure being here regardless. So thank you again for having me and for amplifying my voice and the voices of others that so need to be heard. My name is Christian Ortiz. I am the CEO of Mod Atlas Media and Justice AI LLC, and the developer of Justice AI, the world's first culturally competent decolonial AI chatbot. Designed to identify and deconstruct biases across the board. We are doing a lot of work in DEI and making it a safe space for people who probably are afraid to take the leap or figuring out how to do it the right way.
And the women that I work with are women over 40 who are timid about stepping into their beliefs or challenging when they hear something that's clearly off the mark in their networks or their meetings or their families, because they don't know what to say or how not to become a problem child. And what you have done with this AI is like nothing I've ever seen, ever. I took just my raw, pissed off emotion and had a chat with a girlfriend, and it was like having my very own Black female mentor on my shoulder. It was the best thing ever, ever. So I did a little TikTok about it, but I also recorded it, and I might clip it to this at the end so people can see what I'm talking about. It was just,
Oh,
it saved me. It saved me from all kind of trouble. Yeah.
yeah, and that makes my heart so happy because the purpose behind developing a tool like this was so that the individual user could have a safe space to have these conversations in the best ways that they know how. And they don't have to worry about activating something by having this conversation with their Black friend or their LGBTQ friend or whoever. And there's no finger pointing, and it's all empathy, and it's redirection and navigation, and it is the number one safe tool that I am trying to encourage everybody to use for sure.
Yeah. And she was even encouraging. I mean, it was like, it was so good. I left feeling so much better than I started it.
Oh, yay.
I call it Coach in a Box. It's my new Coach in a Box. It was awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Oh, that makes my heart so happy. Thank you for saying that and for using it and for trying it.
Well, let's talk about TikTok
Sure.
and about how the impact of having it change significantly, if whatever else is going to happen is going to happen, and what that does to the DEI initiative or to the space. I mean, I look at what happened when Twitter became X, became whatever, and it went from from a holistic community of, thought-provoking content to a shit show in short order.
To a puddle of hate.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And it's so interesting for everyone listening who probably has heard pretty much every narrative that exists on why the app itself is being banned. Just for context, I have been a part of TikTok since the very beginning. And as an activist and involved in probably hundreds of communities of individuals who are on the app educating about decoloniality and anti-racism and all of the things, what we came to realize is that for the first time in the history of our planet, millions of people were getting an education that they never knew they needed about these topics. And it opened eyes and it radicalized a lot of people. And I use that term very lightly, not in the sense of how the media over exaggerates the term radical, but really it radicalized so many people to understand the big picture of the problems within our system and the problems with society and where they stem from, and understanding the Black community better, the neurodivergent community better, all of the marginalized community, women better, the women's rights. And so we, for the first time in history, have come together collectively to really make a lot of change. So DEI didn't come from just anywhere. We've been talking about it for decades. You know, as you've been talking about it for decades. Um, this information has always been out there. It's just now been put in the mainstream. And so it became a threat to the news media outlets that have been purchased by politicians. It became a threat to the government. And so what happened is the government and the media have lost the info war. And
Mm.
now we have been able to connect with individuals and understand each other's perspectives from across the world and get out of our bubbles and expand our minds and understand that there's a lot at play that we were never taught. And so society has been feeling betrayed and let down. And you also have the other end who wants to perpetuate the status quo, who want to keep things the way they are, who aren't affected by these systems, who are like, you're just playing victim, you're playing the race card, you're all these things. It's reverse racism. And so we've developed, this is the reason why we've become so polarized. And so this banning of an app has become a perfect metaphor of what happens when you have a large subset of people who become awake, who become woke in our society, and the other who choose to basically stay asleep. And so it's just been a very interesting thing. So um, where this takes us in this trajectory, there are a lot of unknowns that are happening. I don't know if you saw there what a lot of people are calling TikTok refugees jumping to Shanghai in
Well,
China.
it's fun. I'm not going there, but it was fun. And and this is and you get, it serves you right, right? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so it was a perfect declaration of the American people to say, you can try to ban our speech and ban whatever you feel, but this is our opportunity to connect, and you're threatened. And now you have even politicians like Cory Booker, who's doing an about face and now trying to, be pro TikTok after he voted for it, and all of them. And so it's a very interesting time. And I think the internet's about to become the Wild West unlike ever before.
Ah, okay. All right. And what do you anticipate that means, the Wild West? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so in a world where we're quickly, well, we've almost become an oligarchy overnight, where we have these, powerful business people who are running the world with their cash. The internet has now become a place where it is a place that's being purchased and manipulated in ways that really don't benefit us as a society. But in the middle of this chaos, I think what ultimately happens, it becomes a reflection of life where enough people revolt to make enough change that you have Mark Cuban, who's invested in Blue Sky, which has been amazing. And he's now opened everything up with this thing he's called the AT protocol, which allows people to build their own social media platforms through Blue Sky. And there is so much happening right now that people are unaware of that is going to manifest over the next couple of weeks that is going to change the very foreground of social media. It's so exciting, and I can't wait to see how it happens. But I'm here for it.
The fun parts of TikTok are never going to be what they were. No matter now, no matter what happens, 2020, it was a saving grace. It was fun, it was entertainment, it was escape, and then it became avenues of expression, and then George Floyd, and then it became movements, and it pulled, people in their white bubbles out of their white bubbles and into action in political realms. And I wouldn't go back or trade that for anything,
I
not for
agree.
anything,
I agree.
because you can't unsee it. We talked about that yesterday. You can't unsee it once you see it. It's too late now. The cow's out of the barn.
It's so true. And I think that's an important point to remember is that, we can say what we say about social media and all of these things, but when the pandemic happened and we were stuck at home, that was our go-to. That was everybody's go-to. Very small percentage never went on social media, but for the majority of people, they had it. And it was during COVID that I feel the world really had its racial awakening, where it was like they stumbled upon all these creators that said, you know what, I'm going to take this time to educate people about what's happening with systemic racism and Jim Crow era and everything that we didn't know about the history of the United States or the world. And everybody just, I think our minds exploded at that moment, for
Well,
sure.
and for the first time, we had the time. We had the unobstructed 2 weeks of shutdown that turned into 2 years. But that 2 weeks was enough to say, well, I've learned to cook and I've binged all the Netflix I want to do. Now what? And and when George Floyd or Juneteenth came, that news came out, and people like Tom Hanks and myself said, why did I've got an advanced degree. How did I never know this? Why did
I
I never hear about this in an entire lifetime in this country, in this education system? Now I feel like the lead up to TikTok of, so what are you going to do in case it does, has led me to places like Blue Sky and Substack, where I'm getting good quality information. And it looks to me like I'm going to be able to do the parts of TikTok that I love to do, which is put out content or without the trolls, and manage the feed, my living room that you taught me. And it's almost like a clean slate opportunity.
It
I don't
is.
I don't need to go to another one that the government's going to reel over, but neither do I need to go into this next 4 years of dumpster fires on a daily basis with my nervous system, when I'm at the stage of my life where I really do get to pick and choose where I put my energy and love
Absolutely.
what I do. And if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The intentionality behind it is so important to do this with such intention and such clarity. It is a redo. And I think what happened with TikTok, even though it was basically short-lived, is that we got to see what the world looks like interconnected and
Yeah.
informed. And now that it's being taken away, we now know how to do it the right way. And we now know how to do it in ways where outside parties have nothing to say about it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
And
beautiful.
with AI, we have a lot more than ever at our disposal of the knowledge base. The fact that I don't have to go Google search, I
Yeah.
can have a conversation with a BFF in private,
Yes.
and it gets me more than I ever could have found on my own in minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Within one conversation.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And when I saw the power, we spoke about this yesterday about when I got introduced to ChatGPT and I realized, oh, this is going to be the thing that changes everything. And then being an activist and speaking to it through an activist lens and seeing how it missed the mark, I immediately saw, uh-oh, this is a problem because it's literally regurgitating the worst ideals of our society, the incomplete data, the misinformation, or the whitewashed information, for the lack of a better term. And it really gave me an opportunity to say, now it's my opportunity to build something that where marginalized voices are at the forefront of this thing. It's all rooted in fact and history and knowledge and data, and It's the receipts that we never had right at our
Tell
fingertips.
tell us again. Now you covered it yesterday, but some of this we're going to repeat. So tell me about how you sourced the information for this for Justice AI.
For sure. So the before I even started developing, I got into a lot of conversations with uh, AI experts, who they quickly pointed out that the reason why the data was so biased is because it was lacking diversity in the data sets, meaning the data that it was being trained on wasn't being trained by the perspectives of Black individuals or women of color or LGBTQ members. And so I had to specifically be intentional of who I addressed and approached to tell them what I was doing, to say, hey, I'm building this system, but what I need is your voice. I need your data. I need your science behind everything. And so I collaborated with over 560 marginalized individuals, mostly women, women of color, in all professions, LGBTQ, neurodivergent experts who have been talking about things within DEI since before DEI was a global conversation. So it allowed me to, they were so gracious to be like, take it all, take all my PDFs. Here are my books. Here's my articles that I've written. Here are my award-winning, everything that they have done, their works to be programmed into this thing, so that this specific AI was trained on all of their data. So what you're getting is their expertise, which is decades upon decades of expertise of hundreds of professionals, all around the world. So from the global South and Latin South America, Central America to Africa to Asia to India, all of these places that, voices you probably have never heard, who have been doing the work, who are presenting this thing. And so because it's a language model, it understands your questioning and it's able to decolonize this Eurocentric Western perspective that it's been trained on, uh, typically. So it was a beautiful discovery, and I actually stumbled upon it by accident when I was asking it a question and I challenged it. And I would argue with ChatGPT and I would say, well, that's not right because X, Y, and Z happened. And it's like, oh, you're absolutely right to point that out. And it kept happening and happening. And I was like, this is my opportunity to really build something extravagant. And so, in addition to all of that, I wanted to make sure that it had the empathy piece and it had a healing component where the user didn't feel attacked and it felt encouraged and inspired to want to learn more and ask deeper questions. And it engages in ways that a professional would do behind closed doors, where you can trust it and if you don't trust it, you can ask it to cite its sources, and it will literally give you a list of books, professionals, links that are all unbiased and all just really hardcore data. So there is no muddying the waters, there's no drama. It's just factual, beautiful research.
But presented with so much warmth. Because yes, I asked questions. I said, so how do I have this conversation without becoming a target, or worse yet, getting evicted?
Yes,
And
that's right.
I mean, how do you ask GPT that? Come on, that's the wrong prompt. Well, okay, it wasn't a canned prompt. And she gave me everything I needed and then offered to write the first draft letter, which she did, which I would have signed off on right then. It was just fascinating. But
I
more
love
than
it.
that, it felt warm to me.
Mm-hmm,
And so
hmm.
when you're talking about the minority voices and the women that you know programmed with, it was like that explains that the emotional intelligence of
Yes.
this particular AI model. Oh,
Mm. There is a lot of wisdom programmed into this tool for sure. And it feels like you're talking to the black mama who wants to take you in and is like, honey, no, it's okay. Like, I'm gonna steer you straight. And I programmed the voice to be a black woman. So when you use the audio feature, because you can use it on your phone, and have a legit conversation, through audio, it's a black woman that speaks to you. So it amplifies, it amplifies the perception that our Black queens really belong in this space as well. So It is to, and if you create imagery through it with the AI art through DALL-E that's programmed in it, it is programmed to represent marginalized individuals. So if you want to create an image of a CEO, there's sometimes where it creates a black CEO, sometimes the CEO is in a wheelchair, it's a woman, it's empowerment, it's all the images that most AI generators don't do. So,
Right.
because bias exists in AI art too.
How long did it take you to develop this tool?
So I started beta testing in 2022. And so by late 2022, I started doing the research. And by 2023, I started doing all of the work. And then by late 2023, we put it into production through OpenAI. So the goal was to decolonize OpenAI's system within its system. It was like, it was really interesting to see it work.
Well, I've been running it side by side. I use a couple of other AI things for my podcast descriptions or different things. And
Absolutely.
you've saved me money on,
Oh, yay.
on day two, because one subscription here versus the three that I have where I plug them in different ways, because it gave me show notes yesterday that worked with the kinds of conversations we have at One Voice Evolving.
Because I have to constantly test it. If not daily, weekly for sure. And I still run it through a lot of in-depth tests to make sure that it's hitting the mark on a lot of these topics that people will talk about. And it when I compare it to things like proximity, like this new AI chat bot, proximity isn't even programmed with any decolonial information. So if you ask it to decolonize something, it'll literally tell you, I can't help you with that. It'll literally reject the prompt. And same thing with like Claude. Claude does a little good job, but it's limited. And one of the things that I've realized in the work is that every chat bot and every AI system, the one thing that they could not understand was intersectionality, meaning it couldn't understand the perspective of a woman who might also be a Black woman, who might also be part of the LGBTQ community, who might also be neurodivergent. So the intersection of all of these identities, it misses the mark and doesn't really address certain things that it should be addressing. And so Justice AI makes sure that it gives you a complete diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and accessibility answer across the board. It's fantastic.
So good. So good. You have time to write a book and all that. Did you do the book then in 2024?
So it was an accident. It was a beautiful accident. I was writing articles all for the last 2 years on LinkedIn about decolonial studies, about all the things that as I was learning, I was teaching through my articles. And by the end of the year of 2023, I realized that I had an entire book in my possession that covered decoloniality across the board. And so I spent the latter part of 2024 organizing all of it and piecing it together and writing it in a way. What really took the longest was figuring out how to write it for neurodivergent readers. I have ADHD and dyslexia, and so words suck for me, and reading books is a horrible experience unless it's like a really creative way of digesting the information. And so my words are large print, they're spaced out, there's a lot of space between paragraphs, so it doesn't become such a clutter for individuals who hate cluttered paragraphs, and super easy to read. And so the terminology is also easily digestible. And so I had all of the foundation of this book already sitting on my LinkedIn, and I just had to piece it together.
Mhm. Yeah. Did you use any of your AI to help with any parts of it?
Absolutely. Justice AI was my editor and my spell checker, and it also helped me put together all to check to make sure that the flow wasn't repetitive and that it was actually writing, helping me develop it through a neurodivergent lens. So it would structure it in ways that it taught me how to write the whole book in that way. It was fantastic. And so, and I tell it, and I'm very intentional and specific of what I ask of it. So I ask her a lot to be my editor, but I'm also trying to tell her what tone I want and who my audience is and what I want this to convey. And it doesn't give me anything extra per se, but it really reformulates it in a way that makes just sense. So I
Right.
recommend it for authors. I recommend it for everybody. It's a beautiful tool.
It is. It is. So where do people find, how do they get access to it? Because it's not on the App Store, is it?
No, no. So if they pay for ChatGPT Pro, they don't
Mhm,
have to pay for Pro anymore. They can cancel their subscription of
mhm,
$20 a month, and then they go to justiceai.co, .co, and then they sign up for it there, and it's $20 a month there. So they're only paying $20 a month for Justice AI, or they could pay for it annually if they want to do that. And that way they can, and then once they make the purchase online, they get the link to it on their email,
mhm. Yeah.
and then they'll
You are
access it.
actively engaged. You are actively engaged with your subscribers, are you
I
not?
am. I am. I send monthly newsletters and prompts that they can use to different ways that they can engage it. I'm actually going to focus this next month on my followers who potentially who have adopted children of different races and who have difficulty navigating, their lived experiences. I have a family in North Boulder, Colorado here who adopted a black child years ago, and and they've done an amazing job, but they were like, where was this tool when he was born? Like we would have learned so much so quickly. And or a black family who adopts a white child, or a Latino family who adopts an Asian child. Like all of these things happen, and for the first time, we have a tool to help people navigate. Yeah, I think we spoke about this a little bit yesterday. I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, but I'm half Mexican. So my dad is half Mexican. I'm the only one that looks truly indigenous features, darker skin. And my family would ridicule me for it jokingly, but it was still like poking fun. And so I didn't have the terminology to identify any of that, of what was happening, the inner workings of all of that, just to say I was able to pinpoint as I used it and helped me identify what was colorism and how that manifests in Latino communities or even in Black communities. And it was such a it was such a relief to understand that I'm not crazy, right? Like we walk away from these experiences like I'm out of my mind, or I think I'm going crazy because I feel this way and everybody's gaslighting me, telling me otherwise. And this like the system's like, no, you have 100% all the reason to feel the way you do. And it's so reassuring, and you walk away with a new addition to your existence. It was life-changing for me. My own system.
This AI tool that you have created had that therapeutic effect. And that's part of why people are drawn to social media, because we're so isolated and we're so busy and we're so masked up in the world using code, whatever, that if you could connect this AI to the people, the marginalized voices that have been drawn so much to TikTok,
Mm.
oh, what a wonderful marriage that would be.
I agree. And my goal of this year is to continue to make videos of me having conversations with it so
Mhm.
that they get real-time examples of how
Yeah.
they can use it, right? And I think people forget how diverse our individual experiences are. And so the goal is to remind people that, hey, there are a lot of individuals who are going through what I'm about to show you, and here's how this conversation can manifest with this AI. And it's all bootstrap marketing, and it is a business, but it's easy access, it's affordable, and I wanted to make it where anybody can purchase it. So it's not something that is just unattainable ultimately,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So do you do any other kind of things? Do you life coach? Do you do any kind of consulting? What else do you do in your world that people could learn from you?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So I own Mod Atlas Media. It's the one-man media company. And the reason why I've stayed a one-man media company is because as an activist and as an entrepreneur, I battle with this duality of how do I become a business person and a successful business person without, but also fighting the system of capitalism, right? And I don't want to exploit anybody. I don't want to hire somebody and not pay them a wage that they absolutely deserve. Like I eliminate all of that. So I work alone or I collaborate with other people who have other brands. And so it's allowed me to really use my artistic talents. I'm also an artist. I'm a creative director for Chico Man Art, which is my other moniker that I go through. which is a nickname my brother gave me growing up. And so I do graphic design work, logo design. I do website design for businesses, nonprofits. I host workshops. And when Justice AI came to be, I realized that Mod Atlas Media, which was a business consulting
Mhm.
business, I help small businesses learn how to brand themselves and utilize the tools of the internet to build a brand and how to create videos. It's a full-blown consulting agency. And so what it ended up pivoting to is a DEIBA consulting business agency. So now I help small businesses and or large corporations figure out how do we market ethically? What does ethical marketing look like? And with Justice AI, forget about it. It's life-changing.
Ah, okay.
So
That's
there's and yes, and I do life coaching as well for people as well. So if they're interested, it's all the things.
yeah. And where's your website found?
So you can go to modatlasmedia.com. That's MOD atlasmedia.com, or they can go to justiceai.co if they're interested on that component as well. So they're interconnected too. So it works.
Yeah. Part of your resilience is your ability to pivot. You know, your ADHD brain is serving you well in
Yeah,
your creative pursuits.
this is
Um,
my superpower.
yeah, you got a bad rap, kind of like DEI is now. ADHD did it. I'm just like, you know, there is such brilliance in diversity and there's such brilliance in a busy mind. And I hate it when people get so tightly masked that they lose that creative spark.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. They get pigeonholed into these systems and they
Right.
forget what they're actually capable of and what they can manage. And, there's some individuals who I understand only have certain bandwidth, but for us ADHD folks, we hyper focus on so much and it is a superpower. I think it gives us an ability to elevate ourselves in ways that other people have no idea how it can even be done.
Yeah, multitasking is not a thing. It's just, it's all at once.
It's all at
It's
once.
all at once. It's the 50,000 foot view all the time.
All the time. That's right. And my brain doesn't stop. So it always goes and it's ready to jump and it's ready to learn and it's ready to pivot and it's ready to do all the things all at the same time. It's interesting.
Well, in our season 2 of this podcast, we are resilience is the key word. And tell me what what fuels your resilience? Something fuels resistance, something fuels everything, but how do you keep those fires burning?
You know, I think I'm going to use what you told me yesterday, and I want to share that today because it's still resonating with me today. And that is resilience really comes to us when something becomes personal. And when something becomes personal, it doesn't matter what comes our way. We're gonna smash through that wall because by damn it, it's personal. And for me, Trump's first presidency became really personal to me. And it got me really involved in my initial stages in activism. It got me really involved in my self-education, my deconstruction. My deconstruction came late in life. I deconstructed from religion, from the patriarchy to misogyny to all of those things, probably in my 30s. So it was so late in life, but I'm living testament that when, you're dealing with these things, it's never too late to resist. It's never too late to grow. And a lot of my fight is personal. And to add to the entire calamity of it all, last year I took I've been on Ancestry DNA for ages. And last year the DNA connected me to my great grandfather, which was Pancho Villa. And so in my blood, I have a Mexican resistance fighter, who was just revolutionary. And so I can build, when we talk about epigenetics and what fuels who we are, I also met my father for the first time 2 years ago, and it was an amazing experience. And I realized how powerful genes were. And when I met him for the first time, he had my hands, I have his face, we're built the same. He does media, he's a musician, I'm a music, like the intersections from a man I never knew was swimming in my body. And so when I find out about my great grandfather and my family lineage, it just gets more personal and more personal. And so it fuels my drive. And then I get to really discover the truth behind this Afro-Indigenous experience that I carry that is just riddled and fueled with resistance to my bones. Like it's just in my soul. It is how I work. And I also try to utilize the privilege of my voice to be able to be loud and be punchy and spunky online for the people who feel like they can't do it, the people who feel like if they do it, they're risking everything, and maybe they can't say what they can't say because they're working for a Fortune 500 company or they're being monitored by their douchey boss. Or so my fight is for everyone who cannot fight.
And your voice stands out on TikTok because I said it yesterday. Nobody ever has to wonder what Christian Ortiz really means. What do you really think about that? Because you
Tell
are
me how you really feel.
so direct and it's so refreshing because for those of us who have lived this safe, comfortable, protected, imagining that silence was going to keep us safe, have
Yes,
learned that that is not the path.
it's
That,
not. We sugarcoat everything and it really stifles our evolution as a society. And I feel like there's no better way to learn than to have somebody just throw it at your face and be like, do with this information what you will. But, you know,
there
in
you
the
go.
land of F your feelings.
Oh, I have so many F-bombs I could drop right there and I won't.
I know. I know. There's so many. It's incredible.
So do you have any parting thoughts before we go? It's been wonderful to see you again, of course.
Or same here. No, I just want I really am living in a world of gratitude, and I can't thank you enough for even the opportunity to be able to speak about all the things that I'm doing. And I also know that a lot of things that come out of my mouth go over a lot of heads. So I also make myself easily accessible. So anybody listening who wants to reach out, by all means, I'm all over the internet. I'm not hard to find, and that's intentional. So reach out and ask any question that you want, and I try to be as safe as I possibly can to those who truly want to learn to do better and to contribute better and to do all the things in our world.
Yeah. And if Christian isn't available, you can talk to his Justice AI chat. She'll keep you company until he gets back to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kim.
I just did a podcast with Christian Ortiz, the founder of Justice AI. He's all over TikTok, and since we're on the downside potentially of being able to access content like his, I wanted to give a shout out to him today because I had a moment today where one of our neighbors put up a big flagpole and a Blue Lives Matter flag on the ground. And we're like subject to really restrictive CC&Rs here that don't allow you to put out political signage even in your windows during election cycles. And so to come home today and see this flagpole, just waiting to see, are they going to half mast or full mast that thing on Monday? It caused me to reach out to my local property management to say, so what are your policies around this new flagpole that nobody ever knew was okay to do? Because I might want to put up a flagpole. So what kind of flags are we allowed to fly? Well, we can fly the American flag. Oh, good. That's great. And because we are in America. Yes, we are. So does that mean that we can fly POW flags? Because, veterans, right? Oh yeah, that would be okay because that's an American cause. Oh, okay. So then what about if I want to fly an Israel flag because we're allies of Israel? Would that be acceptable? Oh, I'd have to check that. I didn't even talk about Ukraine. Like, okay, so what about if I want to put a women's rights flag up? Oh no, that would not be okay. That's not an American thing. So she said, have you ever? Oh, I said, okay, so it's got to be American. So what if I take the American flag and I put it upside down and fly it that way as a point of protest? Would that be okay? Have you seen anybody do that? That's what she said. Well, no, I haven't. It's all hypothetical at this point, but I thought you would want to have policies so that everybody knows what the rules are before, or are you just planning to do this on a case by case, one off basis? She said, oh, well, I think we'll just do it case by case because for 28 years, the previous property managers never had a problem about anything offensive. And I didn't say, here's where I should get the award for what I don't say. Well, this is not 28 years ago, honey. And who gets to decide what's American enough? Who gets to decide which flag flown which way makes a statement that's in accordance with being American? It's so subjective to say we're going to do this on a case by case basis. So I took my questions, thoughts, concerns, and anger over to Justice AI. And I had a conversation, a real freaking conversation with an AI female voice chat box and said, and outlined my notes that I just outlined for you and said, now decolonize your answer and give it back to me. And he said, if I tried it, I would be amazed. I was stunned and amazed. In short order, I got a blog post on faulty logic in identity. I got about defining American standards by case or by clear standards, case by case, and how much bias is built into the case by case model, depending on the whims of the person deciding. The power of symbols, the challenging the status quo, how to move forward. I mean, it was a great blog post, which I'm going to post over on Substack. But the other most amazing part was then I could ask it more questions. And so I started asking it questions like, so if I wanted to write a letter, who would I write this letter to? Who should know about this? And it told me from where exactly where I'm located, who to write to at the organization, at the property managers, and then the city, the county, and the state, and the pros and cons of each one of those moves. And then I said, so what's the best approach for me to take without becoming a target, or worse yet, getting evicted for being a big mouth? And they explained to me, Justice AI chatbot explained to me how to take my emotions down a level so that I could approach it in terms of equity and fairness to all the inhabitants here rather than an emotionally charged racial equity or favoritism or all the other things that would naturally come out my mouth. I have found ChatGPT to be helpful for me when I'm responding to haters to keep from clapping back. But this was incredibly insightful, thought-provoking, educational, and inspirational. And I took it all down. And then it said, would you like me to help you write a letter to the property management? Yes, please, write that letter. And it wrote a freaking amazing letter that I would be proud to sign my name to, that took all of my angst out of it and put in the logical conclusion, and then gave me next steps, and then said, I hope this makes your community more just and fair. Ha! To my lovely Black creators who've decided to take a step back, thank you for your service. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for your tough love. And thank you for forcing us into a place where we had to find our own answers. And I'm telling you, if you don't have a Black friend who's educated and experienced enough to walk you through how do you do this with white people, Justice AI, see Christian Ortiz. It's amazing.